All right, we're gonna get started, I think. This is our meeting on physical security and lockpicking, arguably a little more emphasis on the lockpicking. Announcements for this week. Really big thing, we're having a workshop with Caesar Creek tomorrow. That's gonna be in 2405 in Siebel. And that's gonna be from 6 to 7 p.m. and that's before the ACM Halloween party, so feel free to wear costumes if you're planning on wearing costumes at Halloween party. Free pizza, so make sure to drop by. Is there anything else that's important about that is worth bringing up? Okay, cool.
Min ignored you completely.
Min, is there anything? Yeah, there's gonna be recruiters, so if you're looking for internships or looking to network, very good way to do so in the security field. All right, so this is today's flag. We got a funny that's just about like the unpickable safe versus where you actually keep your belongings. We also keep that on the slides that we're gonna release. So if you don't get around to putting that in, it's not a big deal. What's up?
Is the meeting? Oh, never mind.
I just changed it, sorry.
Oh, thanks, Pete. Oh, wrong way. All right, so like, what is physical security? It's very similar to like virtual security, but it's physical. Though that kind of line, I'd say in recent years has sort of gotten a little mushy. Because there's IoT systems, sometimes you'll have like a digital lock with a physical override, all that jazz. Threat models can vary very widely. Like, you probably don't need the same lock or the same physical security system as like a government company. There's some crazy stuff out there. You probably don't need to worry about it. And like, going crazy with it is not the correct answer for everyone. Access control is only allowing people you want inside what you want. So some pretty basic forms of that are like fences, gates, walls. It can get pretty complicated though. Like, I mean, a lot of us have keys on our houses. That's suitable for most civilians. Keys are, or like locks like that are also possible to bypass, which we're going to show you how to do in today's meeting, but there's also key card entry and it goes all the way up to like crazy stuff like I have up here. So it gets pretty crazy. Surveillance is something like watching the area and like bypassing entry and trespassing can deter that. It deters kind of like the just break a window or just break a door kind of mentality, and it can deter things that take a lot of time to happen, like lockpicking. You might get like a camera, like some vanilla security camera, some smart security cameras, so there might be virtual vulnerabilities to that. And you probably aren't going to get guards, but guards are another form of security.
Right.
All right, so now we're gonna get more into the lockpicking stuff. So quickly, just the quick little rundown. Different states have different laws related to owning lockpicks. I think right now it's technically legal in all 50 states, but I'm only positive about Illinois. They are legal in Illinois, but charges can be made worse if like you're charged for something and lockpicks are found on you. That can make your charge worse because carrying lockpicks with criminal intent is illegal. Bump keys are explicitly illegal in Illinois. As a result, I'm not going to be demoing them. Feel free to check out the link I have up for more details about lockpicking, where you come from. I'm not a lawyer. Be smart. Please don't get us in trouble or yourself in trouble. If a lock's not owned by you, it's probably a felony to pick it, or at the very least, it's against some policy to pick it. don't pick university locks. Don't be careful with like locks on dorms and apartments because you technically don't own those. You have permission to pick every lock we are going to give you today. Don't pick anything you rely on to work because there's a chance you could break a lockpick in there. There's a chance a lot of things could go wrong. And so you should be careful with stuff that you use regularly. Now a quick little like nasty gramming, please. We're going to keep track of what you borrow from us because we're gonna let you borrow lockpicks and locks today. But give us back what we give you. We're gonna keep track of it. We're gonna take some sort of collateral, probably an iCard, when you borrow the stuff from us. If you don't get it back, you're not gonna be able to get into your buildings or go to the CBTF or something.
I don't have lockpicks.
Unfortunately, lockpicks are not prox cards.
Lockpicks are the universal iCard.
You're right, lockpicks are the. You won't be able to go to the CBTF. They're gonna get you.
Can I just tell them my custody or something?
I don't make me take your driver's license. It's okay.
You can also pick car door locks.
Take the least sensitive thing I can here. iCards are the least sensitive thing I can take from you that'll actually mean something.
You could take shoes.
You
I
could
did
take
that for
shoes,
calculators in
What?
like 8th grade.
especially if it's raining outside. We need the
This
shoes.
is part of
We'll negotiate the collateral like this. If you want to solve these challenges outside the meeting, like maybe you weren't able to make the meeting in person, or you just didn't get the chance to pick all the locks you wanted. We've been running weekly lock sport meetups on Mondays from 8 to 9 p.m. in Siebel, room TBD every time. And if you want your own lock picks, unfortunately, we're not selling them today. And we're not letting you borrow them long term today, but I believe Pomona has been working on getting a group buy together if you want to save on like shipping and stuff. Okay, so now to get started on the fun stuff. Okay, so when you think of a locking key, you're probably thinking about a pin tumbler lock. It's the cylinder that holds pins. They're cut up to a certain point, and they're set in the right place by a key. You can kind of see in the diagram there. And there's little imperfections that misalign the holes, and that lets you kind of bring the pins up like that. If you look at the right diagram, you can kind of bring them up one at a time, allowing for lockpicking to be possible. Now let's talk about lockpicking. Your goal is basically to perform all the rules of the key without actually having the key. So you need a physical object that's turning the key, like turning the cylinder. And then you need a pin you need the pins to be in the right spot to be able to turn the lock. So you can set the pins one at a time, like I was showing in the last slides. And then if you provide tension to the keyway, when you set those pins in place in the right spots, you'll be able to turn the keyway and unlock the key. I'm going to start with talking about tension, kind of that first step there. This is arguably more important to get right than the picking itself at times. There's two types, bottom and top of keyway. The kind we're going to provide you today is bottom of keyway tension, and that kind of affects how your lockpick sits and how you're going to receive that feedback from the lock when you attempt to pick the lock. The amount of pressure you're giving is important. Usually the advice you're going to hear is that you want to give it just enough tension that you feel feedback, but not too much that it makes it hard to push the pins. And that's something you can kind of get to know with like time. That's going to take a little bit of practice, but that's like the general idea. Now here's a bunch of lockpicks. There's single pin, and those are designed to move one pin. And then later on, When we're talking more about general bypass methods, we're going to talk about rakes, and those are used more for brute force attacks. But just to get you kind of familiar with what they might look like. Okay, now single pin picking. You're going to grab a tension wrench, and that's going to be like, you want to grab the right one for the inside of your lock. And again, this is something that kind of comes with practice, picking the right tension wrench. And then you're going to grab a short hook, and you're going to place the tension tool at the bottom of the top of the key aid, and you're going to turn it. And for you, your tension wrench is going to go at the bottom of the lock. And you don't want to push too hard, just enough that you'll feel some feedback. And then you're going to feel the pin with the most tension and bring it up until it clicks. You're going to feel like a little click, and you might feel the cylinder turn a little bit. And then you're going to continue that process until the lock snaps open, basically. Now, locksmiths and like people that make locks, lock manufacturers, know that lock picking is a thing. It's been a thing. So they try to find ways to make it a little bit harder for you to do that. So security pins are one way they do that, where the way that the general, I guess, pattern of them is they have little divots somewhere. And that's designed to trick you into thinking that the pin has snapped into place when it hasn't actually. You can kind of see in the diagram there that like it's catching the middle of that spool pin, and it's not quite making it to the top. And feeling the difference between that kind of fake progress and what actual progress feels like is a big part of advancing when it comes to getting better at lockpicking. Okay, now I'm gonna demo picking the lock. So grab a lock. And yeah. In the meantime, I'll sort through these.
Say the line, nothing on the line.
Nothing on one. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's actually just kind of annoying because
It'd be more useful if they see me picking their lock.
that would probably be.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Sorry, friends.
Go on Zoom. Go.
Sorry, Zoomers.
The meeting came again when I was locked out of my
Do not pick your Airbnb lock segment.
This meeting was really helpful when I was locked out of my neighbor's house and I had a lot of money.
I swear, officer, I was locked out of my.
I was locked out of my neighbor's.
Yeah, what do you expect?
Being the kid that everyone knows and knows how to lock it, I've had several requests to just pick locks for them. Someone had got
Probably not.
locked out of their stores doing it.
Probably
wanted
not.
me to pick it. Don't pick locks, even in like public places, even if like the person who's renting it gives you permission. You don't actually have a right to pick that lock.
Also, the odds of you screwing up a lock are really high if you don't know what you're doing.
Just
You could brick your front door lock if you try to pick it.
yeah,
Just don't do that.
I break my lock.
don't break your lock, friends.
That's the actual
Typically
story.
installed it,
Yeah,
right?
you break your lock. And then you have the shame of calling a locksmith and you're like, wow, it looks like somebody tried to pick this. And you're like, yeah.
I did indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, who did it? Literally.
I think it was a woodpecker.
This is a mushy lock.
Huh?
This is a mushy
Woodpeckers
lock.
seem to really
Yeah,
like-
I don't like the acrylics very much.
Yeah.
I swear.
But I don't know how else to show this off. I could just show.
Just show them.
I'll show the mechanisms. I'll show the mechanisms.
Okay, sure.
They're all much. Okay.
Wait, is the camera went away. Just give me one. Also,
Yeah.
zoom.
All right. Hello, friends. Thank you, man. I'm sorry for
No. Okay, hold on.
giving you this responsibility.
Okay.
All right. All right. This is a clear lock, and so hopefully you can kind of see the mechanisms inside there. At least enough.
Yeah, do you see the pins like in
Do
the
you
diagram?
yeah, do you feel like you see the pins in there? Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah. All right, that's pretty good. All right, this is your clear lock and your key. You can see it brings all the pins up to where they need to go in order for you to turn it. You can see the other side of the pins right there. So that's what it looks like when you're just opening it. But hopefully I'm gonna be able to show you what's going on here. Can you?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, can you kind of see this? Okay, cool. Okay, so you can see that this is a wonky way to pick a lock, but you can at the very least see that I can move the pins manually like that, and you kind of oop. Is this showing? Can you see it well? No, you cannot. Here, actually, to actually show me moving the pins, I don't need that. But you have an idea of what the tensioning looks like, and then you have an idea of what it looks like to bring the pins up. And you can see like for example, on this third one here, it's possible. What is happening?
It's on auto freezing.
Amazing. You can see it's possible. I just want to bring the pin up again. Okay. Yeah, you can kind of see that it's possible to bring it too high up. In that case, it might get stuck. So just be careful with that when you're attempting to pick locks too. But yeah, that's the general idea of the motion is you're gonna see a bunch of them that kind of move like this. And there's gonna be like one of them that kind of snaps into place. And that one you're gonna want to put some pressure on and snap it into place. And then when you get all 5 of them like that, you're gonna be able to turn the lock open. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to have, oh, we have to keep going.
We have to keep going. We had nerd demo.
We have more.
There's more.
Trust me, it will be good. I won't keep you here all
Is
night.
that locking?
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
there's a slide before that. So.
Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna have Nick talk about lock gutting.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, everyone, so lock gutting is a very important skill for anybody who's interested in lock sport. That's the art of taking apart a lock and putting it back together, usually to see what's inside of it. So that's like intelligence or data gathering. If you want to modify a lock and make it harder to pick, if you want to rekey a lock, you have to take it apart. And so this is just like a crucial skill for anybody who's interested in locks. Please don't gut a lock that you're using for something. Like if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna break the lock, you're not gonna be able to put it together, and you're gonna have to call the locksmith, it's gonna be really embarrassing. Can I borrow a chair? I like to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and like live take apart and put together a lock so you guys can see all of these components in motion in real life. Not my face. I just shaved today, and so I'm like really insecure about my face. Okay, so
You have enough space?
yeah, I'm good. I'm good here. Okay, so this is the, yeah, I think that's perfect right there.
Oh shit. Gravity, this thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you, Isaac Newton.
Sorry, I'll pick locks soon.
There we go.
Let's go.
Okay, that works. Okay, this is the American 1100A series. It's one of my favorite padlocks on the market because you can actually take it apart. So typically when you're taking apart a padlock, you'll go ahead and screw down the shackle hole. This is where there will be like a bolt of some kind. Typically on consumer-friendly locks, it'll be a Phillips head screw. On a lot of master locks, it'll be a hex screw, but all we really want to do is get it open and get this piece out. This is the core. This is what actually does like the important stuff of turning. If we look down in here, you can see there's kind of a mechanism in there that'll actually unlock the lock, but the core is really what we care about. And so on the back of the core, I don't know if you can see there's like a little gap there. This whole thing is called the C-clip. And so you have to start by taking that off when you want to disassemble a lock, just because that's what's holding everything in place. So there's that C-clip. We'll just throw it off to the side. Next, we'll go and insert the key so we can actually turn the core. As you can see, the core does turn. And now we want to actually tactfully disassemble this without like the whole thing falling everywhere. And so you're supposed to use some sort of tool to kind of go in. I use a AAA battery because I'm broke. But yeah, you kind of just want to drive it in there. And then if it didn't go through all the way, you can push the pins down manually. We'll go back to that in a second. Here's the part we actually do care about. These are the key pins, or the pins that are cut at different heights in order to make keying possible. This is what actually makes locks like work. As you can see, those are, I don't know if you can see. I have this pin for 4 right now. These are all different heights. Well, some of them are the same, but they're kind of at pseudo-random heights just so they lie differently when the key is inserted or not inserted. All right, on here we have some driver pins. So those are like those security pins we were talking about earlier. We just want to tap those out and put them here. And I'll show you those driver pins because they have actually interesting shapes. Not every driver pin is going to look the same. Not every one is going to be a standard spool or a serrated. Sometimes it'll be a combination of the two. We'll explain what those mean later, maybe. If not, I will. Okay, and that was the last one there. Like I said, I only have this pinned for 4 right now. So that's the full gutting of an American 1100 lock. As you can see there's like a spool pin, like we said earlier. If we had better camera quality, the other ones are serrated, so those make it seem like it might be set, but it's not, and you have to keep going, and they trick you into oversetting too. And the key pins are actually serrated as well, so it makes like a bunch of like clean jagged lines in the lock pins, which makes it really hard to figure out when it's set or not. So now we can go ahead and start putting it back together. This is basically just doing everything I did, but in reverse. Hopefully I'll do it kind of fast because it's a little boring to just watch me play with pins all day. The worst part about putting it back together is if you like mess up and drop a pin or drop a spring, like that lands in carpet, you are never going to see it again. I lost like 2 pins on here because of that. Oh. Give me 1 second, I slightly screwed up. There we go.
You want, we can just keep going.
Yeah, I could do this later. We'll go ahead and reassemble later. It's a lot more impressive when it's like I'm demoing this in my room practicing for this moment, but just pretend it was really cool. Okay. What's the next part? Are we going on to raking yet? I think we're doing raking now.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually we can keep the camera up because I'm going to use my hands real quick and then we'll go back to the.
Yeah.
We'll demo raking real quick. So raking is a kinetic attack. So instead of raising each individual pin to the shear line, we're just gonna stick like a shape like that in there,
and just rub it back and forth really quick and hope that it kind of places the pins where they need to go. This works very well on like locks that don't have security measures in them. Once you start introducing like security pins, it's a lot harder. So if you want to switch the camera view, want to hit a little Alt Tab skis. Yeah, I did say Alt Tab skis. You can deal with that. This is a master lock number 3. This is one of the most popular padlocks on the market. We're going to be using bottom of keyway tension, and I'm using what's known as a snake rake. This is my favorite rake. You don't have to. There's a lot of different types, and we're going to see how fast we can get this open. So slightly faster than using a key. Let's do that one more time to make sure it wasn't a fluke. I'm lockpicking earlier. That's just one type of rake. I have like a whole collection of rakes over here. I can show you guys a couple of my favorites. This is a wave rake. If you do watch YouTube videos, this is the most popular one you'll see. And it works exactly the same way if you don't drop your tension wrench and lose it forever. I'll just use a different tensioner right now. I'm finding out later though. I paid like $5 for that. I'm kidding. So again, you just insert it, go back and forth, and it opens like a key. Again, if there are security pins present, this won't work because the security pins kind of prevent those low skill attacks. But it is really convenient if you have a low skill lock or a lock without a lot of security and you just want to get it open quick. All right, we can switch back to the PowerPoint. Awesome. Bump keys, this is the illegal one, so don't go asking your locksmith for these or they'll probably give you a funny look. Bump key is another kinetic attack. This is where you insert a key with all of the key cuts at the lowest cut possible, and then you use some sort of rubber mallet and bump the end of the key, and it transfers the energy into the key pins, and hopefully it lines everything at shear line. You can do it a couple of bumps, and hopefully that'll align things. It is another low skill attack, so it's not like as difficult as single pin picking. And sometimes it can have difficulties when there are security pins present. That's kind of a common theme with a lot of these low skill attacks, that when there are security pins, you basically can't rake, you can't bump, you can't use a lot of the other tricks. Shimming is another attack. This one is really just a padlock attack. So shimming is when you use kind of a thin piece of metal or a thin metal strip and insert it between the shackle and the lock body. And on certain models of locks, you'll be able to kind of pry the locking mechanism away from the shackle and it'll pop open. It works pretty well on cheap padlocks, not so much on higher grade padlocks. And a very easy fix that lock manufacturers use to combat this is if you use like a ball bearing to slide in place, you just straight up can't shim it. And so that's what most lock manufacturers will do instead of making better cores. I think the last bypass we're talking about is the knife bypass. So this one is another lock specific one. It's probably not going to work on 90% of locks, but on the few that you do know that it works on, it's really nice just to get it open quick. And so you use like a thin implementer tool to go into the back of the lock. You just skip all the pins, you don't care about it, and you just manipulate the locking mechanism to directly spring the lock open. And again, this is a lock specific bypass, so this isn't going to work on every lock, but like the American 1100 lock here, older models actually did have that bypass. So even though you could have all the security pins in the world, it doesn't do anything to fight against that bypass. They later did add in a feature to prevent you from going past the lock, like to manipulate the locking mechanism. But I mean, it's too late. You had it out in the market for years and people are getting broken into. All right, so we're going to hand it over. You can sit down on the swivel chair now.
Okay, so I have other weird locks.
You want
To
to
just talk about. Where is the clicker thing?
clicker is I might put it.
Okay, so you might have seen on every vending machine and every time you walk in an elevator, a weird little lock looking that is a circle. These are tubular locks. It's the same idea as a tumbler lock, except we just put all the pins parallel to the keyway. Basically, we still have, you know, our pin stack, shear line, different tension springs and whatever. But because we've exposed all the pins all at once, they have a very like crucial vulnerability in the sense that I can buy a $4 tool off of AliExpress, which are these guys. These are impressioning picks. You stick this into the tubular lock pick and it opens. Okay, moving on. So you can single pick these. It's more annoying and usually not fruitful. it's the only reason you'd have to do it is if the manufacturer puts variable tension springs into the pin stack. The reason is that impression picks expect equal tension, but if you kind of jostle it around, you can sometimes bypass that even with the impressioning pick. So yeah, that's tubular locks. Free snacks for everyone. So you know, fun locks to try out. We unfortunately don't have any, but it's really not. Or he has one on him, I
We
guess.
just have a flag for it.
Yeah, we don't have a flag for it. It's really not that hard. I basically would be asking you to just like turn your hand. Yeah, and so impressioning picks. Okay, so then the next thing is something that is relevant to maybe half the people in this room. Who has a kryptonite bike lock or something similar? And you know how the key is weird and like angled and it doesn't have any like interesting like pin cuts? Okay, so this is disc container locks. They're considered more secure because they're weird. This is like kind of the idea of like security by obfuscation. The weirder you make your lock, the harder it is to like do it at first. So basically the idea is there's a retainer bar at the top of the core. So there's still a core, there's a retainer bar that prevents the core from rotating. When the disc container lock is filled with several discs, each with a gate on the edge of the disc and starting at some rotation. Your key that you have has these different angled cuts that rotate each of the discs at different rates, so that when you do a full rotation with the key, you line up all the gates and the bar falls and the core rotates. So with that, that's how you can open it with a key. So how do we pick it? Well, it's a specialty tool which I have here. This is the tool that Lockpicking Lawyer and Bosnian Bill made. The idea for this guy is I have a little notch on this bottom part, which will tension off of the first disc. And then I have this manipulator here. It's hard to see, but it's just a little like piece of rectangular metal, and then it spins. That allows me to rotate each of the discs individually. And so because I'm able to do the same concept of tensioning and using the manufacturing defects to lock all the discs into the bar, so that the bar can fall, these locks are actually extremely pickable. And so with that rotating manipulator, it's very easy to steal every bike lock.
Are you telling me every bike on campus is only a $40 tool?
Yes, that tool is $40, $15 if you buy from China. So, it's as much as I would like to say, buy a lock for your bike, at the end of the day, the safest thing is to just always have an eye on your bike. Most people in Champaign are lazy and will just angle grind your U-lock and then it doesn't matter. So, things to keep in mind. That's all I have about weird locks. So.
All right. Okay, so now finally we're gonna let you try this. Okay, so we've got a couple locks for you to try out. And we're going to let you borrow some picks for the next 20-30 minutes. And give this a shot. So I honestly would recommend you start with our progressive locks, but you could also start with clear lock. Get an idea of what you're doing inside the lock when you feel feedback and stuff. And then work your way up toward like 3, 4, 5 pin locks. Your first like quote unquote real lock that I'd recommend is either the Master Lock 3 or the Master Lock 140. And those are just gonna be the ones that say master on them. And then the 140 does have like a security pin, but it's not too bad. The Brinks lock has some more security pins than that. If you're looking for more of a challenge. If you're looking to just try out door locks, we also have some door locks. And I don't think we ever got the safe locked, so that's a lie. But
I'm going to say something.
yeah, sounds good.
Okay, well, we can go over announcements later, but so we have about like 30 people in the room, and we have
15 lockpick sets. So we want to ask you guys to like find a partner for something with someone, and then you can come down and pick up a lockpick set and some logs. We're going to have you bring an iCard or something like that. And we'll record it down, and it's yeah. So next meeting's tomorrow. We have Season Creek Software workshop. So come there. There'll be some software engineers talking and free pizza. No Sunday meeting this week. Enjoy your holiday weekend. And then next Thursday we have another company presentation. This one's gonna be a little bit more interactive. We'll have a forensics workshop with CrowdStrike. It's gonna be some sort of scavenger hunt. I'm not totally sure exactly because student playing that, but it's also gonna be in collaboration with UIUC cybersecurity. So that's really interesting, and if you guys want to check that out, you should come. So yeah. Come down and grab blocks. We'll do like
Do you have a spreadsheet started?
yeah.
Okay.
We'll do like a line starting here.